Alright guys, welcome to another video for the Imagine Realm versus Hanami, and this time I'll be showing you guys a burst solution for Hanami Extreme 2 so that you guys are actually able to collect all of the missions for this, so basically get the last 30 cubes to beat it within 18 turns, okay? Now this strategy is not very free-to-play friendly, by the way, because it does need some high investment. As you can see, I have my Goja 4 dupe, which I only managed to do it yesterday after I pitted on my hidden inventory banners. So that was somewhat fortunate slash unfortunate. Obviously, I wanted to get the hidden inventory characters, did get them, but did manage to end up with 2 blue Gojo dupe, which actually allowed me to beat the stage. So that's, I guess, the silver lining out of that. At the same time, I also have my Ghetto at dupe 1, which is I mean, I only had him at dupe 0 before, but I did spend a universal dupe on him because he's a limited character, so I do feel it's worth it. But that's gonna be up to you guys on whether you think it's worth it for just that mere 30 cubes, or whether you actually think you will be using Ghetto in long term. So that's basically kind of the prerequisite for this in terms of dupe level, and the skill levels are very high as well, by the way. You can see my Gojo have his ultimate and self buff at level 10, and his single target attack skill 1 at level 9. Morgetto have his buff, debuff at level 10. Same with Yaga and Nanami's buff. So, this is like a pretty maxed out pay to win team, to be honest. So I'm not expecting you guys to be able to replicate this. But if you do actually happen to have all of those characters and the requirement at the skill level, then this potentially can be a solution. Okay. If you guys are not able to beat this, I did actually see a very, very good guide by another content creator on the global version, and he meant to use his green ghetto alongside with domain Megumi to beat that stage, and I thought it was very smart. Basically, he used his green ghetto's ultimate attack to break the enemy, which I thought was, I didn't even realize it has that massive break buff from Green Ghetto's ults, to be honest, because I haven't even tried him out. But that I thought was really good, and it was seems to be fairly consistent as well. There wasn't much like RNG involved at all, unlike my solution, which you'll see in a bit. I actually do need a crit on my ultimate attack from Gojo. So if you do actually happen to have Green Ghetto and also Incomplete Domain Megumi, you can probably use his strategy much, much more consistently than what I'm about to show you. I will link his video in the description below. Like I said, it's a really, really good strategy. So if you guys do have that unit, please do check it out. Okay. Now, in terms of strategy for what I am doing here, basically you will be relying on your Gojo to nuke before the enemy is able to use his domain expansion. I know the enemy is going to have like a massive damage reduction, but with the help of both your 2 buffers plus a debuffer, you are actually able to break it through. Now you do need a crit, but one good thing, and almost like a requirement for this, is that you don't actually want to break the enemy with the ultimate attack from Gojo, because if you do actually break it, what's going to happen is Hanami is still going to have his massive 150% damage reduction on, because he won't have released his domain expansion. So actually what you actually want to do is you want to crit so the enemy is almost broken but not quite broken, therefore he will be using his domain expansion, and that actually remove his damage reduction, allowing you to actually do another second massive attack with Gojo skill 1 right afterwards. So that's basically kind of the main concept that you bear in mind here. Now, what you see here is that I do have this character, which is the RUG. I'm using it because I just kind of want to fulfill the 3 blue condition as one of the 3-star requirement. Obviously, you don't have to, but I know some people were trying a storm strategy with Toad inside, and you guys may not have cleared this 3-star requirement, so that's kind of why I decided to put in this RUG in there. In reality, any character which is low level and able to have a taunt skill is going to be fine, because what you kind of want is basically him to die after maximum 2 turns. Okay, I think anything more than 2 turns, then the rest of your characters are not able to sustain enough damage throughout the battle. So I think like as long as you are able to have this character retreat in turn 1 or turn 2, that would be ideal in order for your Gojo to sub in. Okay, now in my case, basically he would be killed off in the first turn, allowing my Gojo to come in straight away on turn 2. Now this recollection is very helpful because one, it does a bit of healing, which is kind of needed because you will be required to actually tank the enemy's domain expansion, and also at the same time, sorry, that's not the one I want. This is the auto skill, the passive. It heals a bit, like 10% HP. At the same time, it recovers 10 curse energy, which is once again very much needed in order for you to constantly buff. And also this 10% damage down is actually very important as well. So all three of those criteria are very, very important. So this is a very good recollection on whoever is going to retreat. Now the other recollection was basically you have two damage increasing one, which like you can substitute to whatever you want, but you definitely want as much damage buff recollection as possible. And mutual trust is a bit of a must because one, you're able to reduce the damage we take from damage domain expansion, and therefore actually allow you to continue to play through the battle even after tanking that hit. And then the second thing, which is also very important, is this passive skill, 10 curse energy, and this is kind of what's needed in order for your Yaga and Hanami and also Gojo to actually have like curse energy throughout the entire battle. Okay, now in terms of turn by turn strategy or move you want to do, basically like I said, on turn 1 all three of your character will just be using their skill 1. All right, they won't be doing anything. You will just be kind of conserving your curse energy. Yuji will be taunt so that you tank the attack and hopefully retreat. Now depending on whether he dies on the first turn or second turn, basically the idea is that until Gojo comes into the battle, your 3 supporter will just be doing skill 1. However, as soon as Gojo comes into the battle, then what happens is you'll be using a buff skill or debuff skill from all the 3 supporters, and basically you'll be doing that for 3 turns. And then on the third turn, when Gojo comes in, what you're going to do, Gojo, by the way, on the first and second turn he'll come in, he will be doing a self buff, and then on the third turn he'll be doing a skill 1. And this should be enough to actually break the enemy first phase, but not quite enough to kill it. And then what happens for Gojo afterwards is that on the fourth turn and fifth turn he comes into battle, he'll be self-buffing again. And then at the same time, your Yaga and Hanami will always be doing their skill 2 throughout as well. Now, depending on how much damage you have done and whether you have a crit from your Blue Gojo in terms of his skill 1, what you're going to do on Ghetto is going to depend. Sometimes what I tend to do, also you have to keep an eye on the curse energy, by the way, because you definitely want him to have at least 40 curse energy at the start of phase 2 so that he can actually activate his debuff skill. So what normally happens is that if your Gojo comes in turn 2, what you have to do on the 4th turn and the 5th turn, Gojo is in the battle, so that will be the 5th turn or the 6th turn if you count from the very beginning. Okay, so in those 2 turns you'll be using one skill 2 and one skill 1, and that is basically going to be enough for you to have enough curse energy, 40 curse energy exactly, so that on the first turn of phase 2 you're able to apply this debuff. So that's something you can do. Now if your Gojo actually happen to crit on his skill 1, then you may actually end up killing the enemy too quickly if you use skill 2, and in those cases I'll just be doing 2 skill 1 back to back. So depending on the situation, you may need to change what attacks you need to use on Ghetto, but the main takeaway is you have to ensure that when you start phase 2 he definitely need to have 40 curse energy so that he can activate this debuff. Okay, now as soon as phase 2 finish, as soon as phase 1 finish and phase 2 start, what you're going to do is you're going to activate the recollection on everyone. Now Gojo would be able to stack his second buff from Pride, and therefore he'll be going for that nuke. Your Ghetto will be activated this, however he will be using his skill 2 to do that bit of a debuff and also damage reduction to make sure you survive. Your Yaga and Nanami will both be activating their ultimate attack, and the nice thing here is that first of all it's able to give you a bit of a debuff and buff, allowing your Gojo to do more damage. But then the other nice thing is that when Nanami activates his ultimate attack, he's also able to recover 20 curse energy to the partner. So therefore what's going to happen is that you actually see my Nanami and Yaga would almost have their curse energy down to 0 by the time they use their ultimate attack. However, because of this combo, you immediately get 20% energy back, allowing you to use that buff again the turn afterwards. And that's very important because the turn afterwards, remember, you will still be needing to use Gojo skill 1 to actually do as much damage as possible. And you will see from my battle gameplay later on, I'm still not even able to finish off the battle with a skill 1 from my Blue Gojo, and I actually need to finish off with my Ghetto. And that's kind of why the dupe 1 on my Ghetto turned out to be actually quite useful, because it was cutting a bit close. If your Gojo is actually dupe 5, then maybe the dupe 1 from Ghetto is not needed. That's something you have to play around and see. But that's basically the rationale behind my bursting. But like I said, a lot of investment is needed here. So, this is very much a pay to win solution.
手早く行くか。人を助ける。立っていられるとこです。大地のありがたいもない。動かねえ。さて、軽くひねるか。サイズ片付けます。やっちゃっていいの？授業を始めよう。気張っていきましょう。さて、楽しくなってきた。避けきれるか。どうですか？美しいでしょう。 大地のありがたみを知りなさい。投資これはやっちゃっていいの？では教育の時間だ。っていきましょう。さて楽しくなってきた。まずは質より量。たいもない。たいもない。うっとうし。これはやっちゃっていいの？では教育の時間だ。っていきましょう。避けきれるか。 これで用水からあなたなら当然でしょう。隙だらけ。相手片付けます。それじゃおしまいにしようか。授業を始めよう。気張っていきましょう。さて楽しくなってきた。まずは質より量。隙だらけだよ。さてそれじゃおしまいにしようか。授業を始めよう。ここが踏ん張りどころです。さて楽しくなってきた。立っていられるかな。無益な戦いはこれで終わらせましょう。 さて行きますよ。それじゃおしまいにしようか。まずは質より量。行くぞ総力戦だ。これで払い切る。対象の7対3の点を弱点にする。私からは以上です。行くぞ今です。術式判定赤。領域点大公開。ここです。うっとうしいハエ。これはそう来るんだ。授業を始めよう。ここが踏ん張りどころ。避けきれるか。その調子で頼む。そう焦るなよ。あ、養生じゃあと頑張ってね。隙だらけだ。これはいけません。授業を始めよう。ここが踏ん張りどころ。避けきれるかな。隙だらけだよ。これはいけません。さて最善片付けます。気張っていきましょう。まずは質より量。相手の動きを。これは授業を始めよう。まずは質より量。そろそろ追い込まさせてもらうよ。